should try to make a list and see if you have a well documented agreement to protect your business and your relationship with this service provider. So if you are yet to do that, during the course of this conversation you can just take a look at your business. Do you have people who provide services, who render services to your business, and you don't have a concrete understanding or a written document to safely say that, oh, this is what we've agreed upon, and where there is a default, so that your business is well protected. So this is why we'll be looking at service contracts this afternoon. So what is a service contract? Service contract basically is an agreement between your business or yourself and someone who is providing or rendering a service to you. So the same way you have an agreement to do something for someone, like let's say to supply some products to someone or to render some services to someone, there are some people who during the course of your business you've engaged them to do things for you. You might not even have adverted your mind to some of these persons in your business, but there are people who provide services to you, but then in the long run, if you check, you don't really have a concrete, or you don't really have a tangible or very serious agreement between yourself, your business, and these service providers, to the extent that where there is a default in their service, you can challenge them or you can point their attention to some of these things. So who are these service providers? So to just help us this afternoon, our viewers, some of these service providers can be your internet service provider. They can be your graphic designers, because we're in a digital age now, and businesses are being promoted virtually on different social media platforms and other platforms where you can promote and advertise your business. So let's say you have an understanding with a graphic designer who assists you with your graphic designs or graphic designs for your business. Like if you check out Law Accent's page on Instagram and Facebook and every of our channels, if you check out our page, you see that we roll out content all times, every week. We roll out content every week. We have different designs for different purposes. We have a graphic designer on retainer at our firm. So if you find yourself in a similar scenario where you have a graphic designer who is always assisting you with your graphic designs, then you should have a service contract agreement with such a person. So it is not just an oral understanding. So it's not just all the time we say, oh, I already have someone on standby, I just put a call to design this thing for me. But you can have a retainer arrangement with someone who is into the business of graphics designing, just as we do at Law Accents. So people like these are people that they service your business. They're almost like a part of the business, because your business depends on them to thrive in your field of industry. So your graphic designer, you can engage a content creator, you can engage the service of a web designer, someone who designs your website and manages your website. So these are people who you need to have a service contract agreement with. You can also have a project manager on board. You can have a business development expert. So all these people, as long as they are not really your full-time employees that you have your contract of employment with, if these are people that like they are on a contract basis, they service your business based on your contractual relationship with them, then it is more tidier, it is more safer for your business to have a document, not just an oral understanding now, but to have a document that talks about what is to be done, how it is to be done, the frequency of what they need to do. Just for example, the graphic designer, if your business is such that you want to roll out content every day or every week, you already have an understanding with the person. So this person already knows that on Sunday all designs need to be ready because I need to roll them out during the course of the week. So if you have a well documented agreement to say that, oh, this is when this graphic design is needed, because we have a lot of graphic designers out there who have a lot of work on their desk. But when you've paid them, you've mobilized them to design things for you, and it is time for you to project all these things you need to project out there, and you are not seeing the design is not forthcoming, you can't even use them for what you want to. That is a loss on your own business, or that is going to cause untold hardship, a delay in your business plan and your model and the things that you've set out to do for that week. So this is why you need to have a contract, like a defined contract, so the person is not just seeing it as, oh, it's a design thing I need to do, so anytime I have to do, but then I can do it as soon as I wish, or as anytime I'm free. So when you have a contract agreement, a document that regulates this relationship, then you'll be able to enforce the agreement when there is a breach, and when as a result of the delay of the person performing his contract, it has amounted to a loss on your company, then you can hold the person responsible, because you already have an agreed understanding with this person. So talking about service agreements, do they need to be in writing? Yes and no. No, in the sense that you don't have to you don't necessarily need let me not say necessarily, like it is not a requirement like that you need to have it in writing. But then, because an oral agreement is enforceable in law, but you need extra evidences, like you need to get, let's say, maybe people to come as witnesses to say that, oh, I was actually there when they signed this, when they discussed this, when they both agreed. Because when it comes to oral agreements, it's not something that you can easily prove. It has to be my word against your word. So that's why you need extra evidence, you need additional evidence to back up what you are saying. But when you have it written down, then you may not even have to call witnesses, because the document speaks for itself. So this is not to say that when you have it oral, like it's an oral arrangement, it is not going to be valid. But then it is safer to have it in writing. So this is why in this section we will advise that your service agreement should be in writing. Don't just limit it to oral conversation. You call someone, like we've been using the example of a graphic designer. You engage a graphic designer, you send your content, everything you need, you send to the person on WhatsApp, you mobilize the person, you transfer the cost, like the bill that has been given to you for the cost of having that design done, and that is all. If there is a default, to enforce such an agreement, the person might even feel that, oh, I didn't really see it to this extent that you have to file an action in court. But once you put it down in writing, the person knows that, oh, this is a serious transaction. It's not just a paddy thing. It's not just a common thing. But person, there's this seriousness in the tone. There's this seriousness, like this official status. Like it makes it formal and official. The person knows that, oh, I'm not just dealing with anyhow business, but a business that knows what he or she is doing. So that is why you need to have your service contracts documented. And when you have it documented, you have the latitude, it affords you the opportunity of stating precisely what you want the person to do, the timeline, how it has to be done. If you have some specifics, oh, you want this design to be this, to be in tune with my brand color and all. So these are things that you can have in your service agreement to specifically state the scope of the transaction. So talking about putting your service agreement in writing, are there things that your service agreement should contain? Are there requirements, or can you just draft it anyhow? Are there things that you need to have in your service agreement, like mandatory requirements, such that it is not just enough to say, oh, it's already in writing form, but then what you've put down in writing, what is in writing, actually meets the name? Because it is one thing to have a service contract, and it's another thing to have a service contract that specifically covers the scope of transaction. So you cannot just have a service contract that is just on the surface level. It doesn't really cover the scope of transaction. So your service contract agreement should like we started last week, it should contain the parties. There should be a party clause where you have the names of the service provider, your own business name, or anyone that is a party to that agreement, anyone that you know that will have the right to enforce the agreement, or anyone that you know that if there's a default, this is the person that is going to be liable. It is advised that you have the specific details of your service provider and your own business, their address. You can have their contact details, email address. If you need to serve them any paper, where are you going to where is it going to be served on? If it's email address, if it's a phone number, contact details, precise contact details of go-to person in case of default, or when you need to even communicate some information. So another thing that you should have in your service contract, this is like the most important thing, is the description of the service and the scope of work. So under this part, you need to be very elaborate. Like, if you know that this is what this person is going to do, you need to cover the field extensively. So like still on a scenario of a graphic designer, you're engaging a graphic designer, then you should be able to specifically state, oh, this is the scope of engagement, and for this design you are doing, is there a frequency? Is it something that you do every day? Is it an everyday affair? Is it a 3 days in a week affair? Is it something that you do weekly? Is it monthly? Is it on quarterly basis? And after then defining the frequency of the transaction of the designs that needs to be done, is there a quantity? Because sometimes you might need, like, let's say 3 designs in a day or 5 designs in a day. And if the person you've engaged to manage your business graphic design is just sending you, like, let's say 1 design per day, that is not helping your business to meet its target. So your agreement should be very clear on the quantity of design. So talking about design agreements now, service contract agreement for a graphic designer. If it's for a web designer, what is the scope of the website? Like, what do you want to see on your website? How do you want the graphics to look like? Is there some specifics? Are there things that you want to include in your website? So all of these things, talking about graphic design, is the person going to be responsible for posting it, or you are just the one who is going to be posting it, or the person is just designing basically? So your social media page is person that, oh, at what time? Is it just for you to design and you post anytime? Is there specific? So this is why your service contract agreement has to be it has to be a tailor-made agreement. So you don't just copy things on the website without ensuring that this agreement fits in to your business. So you see that from just a graphic design and service contract, now it's more or less like a social media management thing. So the person that has taken it, like, the services to be provided has gone beyond the scope of just designing now the designs, and also posting and engaging those posts. So if the scope of work is like the person has more to do than that, then you keep developing the service contract agreement. So you don't just leave it at, oh, this service contract agreement is that so and so is going to design this number of flyers for this particular business. So if you know that the person is going to be doing more, then you should state, like, extensively. Let's be very elaborate. Don't leave anything unsaid to think that, oh, I felt that since we already have this agreement, then it covers. No, don't assume. Be very, very precise in about your service contract agreement. So your service contract agreement should also include your payment terms, because these people are servicing your business. So you should be precise on the amount that is payable. So it's not a matter of someone is saying, oh, after all I've done for you, I just pay me this amount of money. So your service contract agreement should also clearly state the amount that you have to pay and the frequency of your payment too. So it's not a case of, oh, I make graphic designs and flyers. I make flyers and posters and all. I make for you weekly, then you have to pay me weekly. If the understanding is that payment is to be made to be made monthly, then you should state your mode of payment, the frequency of payment. Then another thing that you should have in your service contract agreement is you should have a clause that talks about what amounts to breach or what amounts to a default. So if you've engaged someone to do something and the person is not meeting up with what you've agreed to do, there is a default. So you need to clearly state, oh, what will amount to a default. So let's take for instance you engage you subscribe to some internet services. They are service providers to in your business. So that's another service provider that you should have an agreement with. So you subscribe to internet service, and when you were having the discussion with them, they told you, oh, our internet is very effective, it's move at this speed and all. They've given you all the promises like that. There was a time we had that kind of internet service providers for us at Low Accent, and we had an agreement with them, but contrary to what they said, we discovered that the service was not as efficient as they had claimed it to be, and we had to take necessary steps. So if just imagine there was no legal documentation and all, then one is almost at the mess, even though you can still challenge it. So when you have a clearly written agreement, then you can enforcement of even the agreement is going to be very easy. And there's this agency of the government that protects Consumer Protection Agency. These are people that you can lodge complaints to. It's an agency set up by the federal government of Nigeria. These are agencies that you can lodge complaints to when you've subscribed to a particular service and you're not getting value for it. And I know that one of the documents that one of the things that they advise is that if you have any documents that substantiates your claim, or if you have any document that backs up your claim, then you're always advised to upload it when you are lodging any complaint on the Consumer Protection Complaint Portal. So that's one of the things they advise people to do. So just imagine someone is providing internet services for you, and you are not enjoying that service, and you want to lodge a complaint to the Consumer Protection Agency as regards that, and where you have to upload document, you don't really have anything to substantiate your allegation or your complaint. Yes, it will be attended to, but then your complaint will be more like, it will be treating your complaint will be more faster if you have documents to save you the stress of having to say a lot of things back and forth. Because when you want to say someone is in breach of something, then that means something has been agreed upon. That means something is written somewhere that you have to do, then the person is not doing it. That's when you can say there's a breach. But if you can't even establish that this is what this person is going to do, or what this person has agreed to do in your business, then it will be very difficult, or it will be a task for you to say, oh, you've breached what you said that you want to do. So your service contract, again, just as we discussed last week, it should also include a confidentiality agreement. And what are we saying there? You can check our video last week. We talked about all you need to know about confidentiality agreement. So during the course of these people servicing your businesses, it may demand that you exchange or you give them some information about your business. You might not have confidentiality agreement with someone that provides internet services to you, because there might not necessarily be a need for you to disclose confidential information. But just imagine, for instance, someone who is designing your website, or someone who is developing an app, a mobile application for your business, an IT person, and there's no way you engage this person. They are not your employees. There's no way you engage them to get this result for you, to develop your website or to develop a mobile application for your business, without giving them some information about that business. So in cases like this, you should have a confidentiality agreement. And even talking about graphic designers, you should also have confidentiality agreements with them, because if, like the scenario I gave, someone who is not just designing, the person is also managing your social media pages, then the person is going to have access to some of your passcodes, passwords, usernames, and some confidential details like that. So this is why you should have a confidentiality agreement in your service contract. Then your confidentiality agreement your service contract agreement also should include remedies and dispute resolution, because you can't say there's a breach without also providing for how you want to resolve the breach. So if you've engaged a graphic designer and the person is not coming up with necessary designs, or the person is not meeting up with obligations, what can you do? Especially when you've mobilized the person, that you've made payments, what can you do? Are there ways you can remedy the breach? Are you going to say, oh, there's already a breach, you want to terminate? Are there steps that you would want to take before terminating? And even when you terminate, if there is a loss to your business, are there ways? How can you recoup this loss? How can you make this person pay for the damages the person has caused to your business as a result of the person's default in doing what he or she has agreed to do? So these are things that you need to include in your service contract agreement. And this is not an exhaustive list, so it depends on the kind of service that is to be provided to you. So you should ensure that your service contract agreement meets with specification, or it meets the scope of transaction or the scope of services that you'll be needing. So if you are engaging, let's say, a legal practitioner, an external solicitor in your business, you should have an agreement with this person, so that you know the extent or scope of services that is going to be rendered to you. So after this conversation, I'll advise that you check your business. Who are the people that service your business? And do you have documents that protect your business enough to the extent that these people are not just dealing with you because you are paying them, but they know that they are dealing with a business that knows what is right. They are dealing with a serious-minded business. So not just any business that is just out there doing things anyhow. So in this age and time that we have now, you need to take your business very serious and just